Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to take you through the understanding, the distinction, the difference between portfolio, program management, and also project management. I've seen so many people still confusing the difference between these three items. Therefore, I found it very necessary for me to create this video to make the distinctions very clear. So let's move on. So this other day, I was following a certain discussion on one of the social media platforms. And to my surprise, I could see people are still confusing the difference between portfolio, program, and also projects. So in order to clarify that, I've created this video specifically to show the difference between a portfolio, a program, and a project. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified program and project manager. This is the channel which I use to help aspiring and also practicing project managers to succeed. So there's a need for people to appreciate and understand the difference between portfolio management, program management, and also project management. I've seen so many people making the confusion or even misunderstanding what is the difference between portfolio, program, and also project management. So basically there are three levels which I'm going to take you through this video. At high level, you have the portfolio management, which is at a strategic level. And then below the portfolio management, you also have a group of sub-portfolios, programs, and projects. So that is what makes up a portfolio. Then below the projects, then below the program, you have projects. So a program is a collection of projects, and then a portfolio is a collection of sub-portfolios, programs, and also projects. It's very important to understand the distinction between these three items. So in this video, I'm going to take you through individually what does it represent, why do we need it, and why is it important to an organization. So let's move on. Why does it matter to know the difference between portfolio, program, and also project? So actually, many people who confuse this, it might lead to poor governance, and also it might also lead to improper implementation of the right skills. Say for example, it's a portfolio, you want to apply the project management skills, it will not work like that. So it is very important as an individual to understand in every organization why a portfolio exists, why a program exists, and why a project exists. So it's actually very important and it matters, and that is the purpose of this video, to explain the difference. So let's move on. So the three levels that we have for portfolio, program, and also project, each level, it actually serves a specific purpose. And that is why it's very separate from the other levels. Say for example, if you look at the portfolio, portfolio is actually at a strategic level. And then you normally see that a portfolio manager is normally very close or discussing with either the executive board, or if it's a business organization, you can even have the CEO of the organization, because they are looking at it from a strategic point of view, which means, say for example, they have a 5-year plan or even a 10-year plan they want to implement as an organization or as a business. They are going to say, in the next 5 years, for example, let me give you a banking environment, which I've worked for so many years. They might say, as a bank, we want to transform all our operations into digital platforms. I can tell you that cannot be done within 6 months or even a year. It's something that can span over some time, probably minimum 3 years, up to maximum, say for example, 10 years. So the chief executive is the leader of the organization or of the bank. He or she might have a vision in terms of what the company should look like in 5 years. So they would say, for us to transform, I need a portfolio manager to advise. So the CEO will go to the portfolio manager, ask them a question. If I want this to be done, I want to transform all the operations into digital platforms, what is required? So it will be the responsibility of the portfolio manager to advise the executive board or even the CEO or COO that you have to run this as a portfolio. Why as a portfolio? Because a portfolio consists of sub-portfolios It also consists of programs. It also consists of projects. So it's highly unlikely that they are going to run this as a simple program. They're going to have other different sub-portfolios, say for example, digital channels. They're also going to have some other programs, say for example, changing of core banking system. And also they're going to have some small projects, say for example, the data migration from the old system to the new one, or the data migration from the channels to the core banking system. So the portfolio manager's responsibility is to look at it from a strategic point of view. You need to understand that difference. The portfolio manager will look at it from a strategic point of view, which means it's something that is long term. It's not something that is short term. So the portfolio manager is going to advise the executive that you need a portfolio, and these are the sub-portfolios that you need, these are the programs that you need, and these are the projects that you need. So it is very important to understand those levels. So the second level is the program level. I can tell you from my experience, there are certain cases where you have to segregate or categorize, or for example, further dismantle the program into small projects which are manageable. The reason why you should do that is it is easier to manage small projects than one big project. So you segregate them into other sub-projects for easier management. And if you look at program management, it's normally on the benefits. What benefits are we bringing to the organization? What benefits are we bringing to the business? So this is what you normally find when it comes to a program. So there are certain cases where it's easier to run the program into small projects as compared to running a big project to attain the same benefits. So the program normally looks at the benefit level. Now, let's go down to the project. So a program is going to contain a number of projects, interrelated projects, which are working towards the same benefits to the organization or to the business. So projects, they normally look at deliverable. What are we delivering, and are we delivering on time? But if you look at program is looking at, are we delivering the benefits to the organization? Then if you look at portfolio, which is higher level, it's looking at, are we actually doing the right thing for the organization? That is at the strategic level. So that is very, very important. Now, so let us look at the reasons why you should have a portfolio, okay? So reason number one, you must have what is called a collection of programs and projects and operations. So what does it mean? We are talking of collection of programs, sub-portfolios, operations, and also projects. So that is very, very important to master. I've said it before. A collection of that is what is called a portfolio. Then the second item is also you want to align it to strategic decisions. So a portfolio is supposed to be aligned to strategic decisions. That is very important. You work with senior executive on a portfolio. So a portfolio manager, it's actually one of the powerful titles or responsibility you can have in an organization. Then the third one is to focus on investment decisions. So in a portfolio environment, you want to focus on investment decisions. So it's something that you're going to invest in for the next maybe 3 to 10 years. It's not something that you're going to do in a year or two. In most cases, it normally stretches over a span of a long period. So also under portfolio, you want ownership, okay, to be done at leadership. Remember what I've said, in terms of portfolio, you are working with leadership. If you're a portfolio manager in an organization or business, you are actually looking at leadership. So the leadership will come to the portfolio manager and exactly explain what they envision in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years. It depends on the organization. Then the portfolio manager is the one to segregate into sub-portfolios, programs, and also projects. So that is very, very important to consider from a portfolio management point of view. So let us understand what do we actually get from a portfolio. So the first item you need to get from a portfolio is strategic alignment. In a portfolio, you must have proper strategic alignment. Then you also need to look at values and benefits. It's very important. In a portfolio management process, you must look at value and benefits. You cannot just start a portfolio without understanding where you're going to, why you're doing that. So there must be some value, there must be some benefits. And you also want to prioritize Okay, you want to prioritize whether resources, whether decisions, or even actions that you need to take. So it is quite important that when you're managing a portfolio, you also prioritize some of these things. It's very important. Then the last one is resource optimization. For portfolio management, you want to optimize the resources. It is very, very important that you optimize the resources in such a way that there's business benefit to the organization or to the business. That is very important. So there are also cases where you need to segregate complex portfolios. So if you've got a complex portfolio, you want to segregate it into simpler or sub-portfolios, okay? And then you can manage the sub-portfolios from that point onwards, which means from sub-portfolio, you also have programs, you also have projects. So that is why it's very, very important that when you're working as a portfolio manager, you are actually and always be engaging with senior management or leadership, so that at least you get to appreciate what are the sub-portfolios you're supposed to create, what are the programs, and what are the projects you're supposed to create. Then also it helps the portfolio to have a group of business areas. So why do we come up with sub-portfolios? It's because we want to have some groups of business areas. Say, for example, you might say finance. So you want to make sure that there's a sub-portfolio for finance. If you're running any projects, programs, portfolios to do with finance, it's one area. It could be ICT, information, communication, and technology. So you also want to be able to run that particular project for that business area. So you might have finance, you might also have ICT as examples of a business area where sub-portfolios are actually allocated to them. And then when you have sub-portfolios, you are actually improving in terms of focus and also governance. So sub-portfolios are very important. If you have got a sub-portfolio, it is very important that you appreciate the focus and governance. Imagine you've got one big portfolio. It will be very difficult to manage that. But if you go to sub-portfolios for that specific area, it improves focus and governance. Like I was saying earlier, if you've got finance, you focus on finance as a sub-portfolio. If you've got ICT, you focus on ICT as sub-portfolio. If you have got human resources, which is HR, you also focus on HR as sub-portfolio. That is very, very important. Section 1 to understand what is a program. So a program is actually a group of related projects. A program is also managed for benefits, okay? Related benefits or together as benefits. And then a program is also on focus on output, not just outcomes. You should know the difference. Program is focusing on output and not outcomes. And also, program is handling interdependencies. It's very important that you know that program is handling interdependencies. So a program is a collection of projects. So within these projects, there are interdependencies, which means they have to work together to provide the ultimate benefit from that program. So that is very, very important to note. When you're working on a program, it's a group of these for the same benefit. So what are the key focus areas for a program? So the first one is benefit realization. Program normally focuses on benefit realization. Then the second one is on change management. Every program normally focuses on change management, which means you have so many projects working together to produce the same benefits. And then also program focuses on dependence coordination. There's no way you can run a program and there's one project which is very, very independent. Then there's no need to put it into the program. Otherwise, you could run it separately as a project. So there's always some interdependence in a program. So projects in a program, they have some interdependence. Then the last one we have is also for business transition, okay? You need business transition when you're running a program. A program is going to consist of so many projects with the same benefit. Like I said earlier, if you want a digital transformation, there are so many projects to be involved. For example, HR projects, there are going to be ICT projects involved, finance projects to be involved, customer service projects to be involved. So all these are very, very important when it comes to interdependence and also when it comes to focusing. So this particular section, we are looking at what is a project. So by definition, a project is supposed to be a temporal endeavor. Okay, what does it mean? A project must have a start and an end date. You cannot run a project forever. It must have a start and an end date. So that is why it's a temporal. There must be some last date, there must be some starting date to the project. That is very important. The second one is a project is unique. It also produces a unique product, or maybe a unique service, or probably a unique result. So this particular point is very important. You should understand that a project in general, it must be temporal, which means it must have a start and an end date. If it's something that does not have an end date, then that is not a project. It's operations. So if you hear someone saying, we have been doing this thing for the last 15 years, definitely that one is an operation. It's not a project. But if you hear someone saying, I was assigned to some work where we started in 2021 and we finished in 2029, 2028, whatever date, 2026, whatever date. So you should be able to know that this is a project. And in most cases, a project is unique. I can tell you from my experience, there is no way you can run the same project again and again. Then it's not a project. Normally you find it's unique in different ways. You have different people. You have even different vendors, even different systems, different places, different language, for example. Geographical locations are also different. Different executive, different project board, even change board, even project assurance. So a project is normally unique. You should know that difference. But a project focuses more on delivery. Okay, in this section, we are looking at what are the key focus of projects. So the first one is deliverable. Projects, they always focus on deliverables. What do we mean by deliverable? Anything that is going to be produced in the project is called a deliverable. It could be a document, it could be an actual product, it could be even a same processed product or raw material. All those ones, they are called deliverables in a project. In some quarters, they want to call it product. It's the same thing. Whatever is going to be produced within the project is what we call a deliverable. And it's always produced by a team, by people. Then the second one is also on the schedule and control. Normally in a project, there are so many activities that you do, whether a project manager or just a project team member. And one of them is to create a schedule of activity. Schedule of activity, we are talking about how are you going to deliver? What is required to produce the deliverables that were defined in the project? So you find a schedule, you have time, for example, start dates, end dates. Sometimes you even have start time, end time. And also it will have an owner allocated. Okay, who is going to own this and what is the activity? And sometimes you can also create a list of activities to be done. If you want to understand more about schedule, which is part of planning, I've created a video on project planning. You can also check it on my channel. The third one is also on the quality assurance. This is very important. I've seen people confusing quality assurance and project assurance. These are normally two different items to consider. So when we look at quality assurance, we are looking at the responsibility to make sure that the project, the program, or the portfolio is actually producing what is expected in terms of quality standards or quality guidelines. So in this particular case, a project quality assurance, it makes sure that the project is producing what is expected in terms of what was defined as quality criteria for that particular project. That is very, very important to consider. Then project assurance is actually totally different because this is looking at the assurance, the project as a whole, not just the quality. Are you doing the right meetings, for example? It has nothing to do with quality, but are you also creating the right products? Something to do with the quality. Are you managing procurement process for vendors? Something which has nothing to do with quality. So project assurance is just to make sure that everything is being done properly. If you want to understand more about project assurance, I have a video on project assurance. You can also check it on my channel. And then in order to create the difference and for people to appreciate and also understand what is the difference between project assurance and quality assurance, I've also created another video on quality assurance. You can also check it on watch it on my channel, or you can check the link in the description below. Then the fourth item on the focus of project delivery is specifically on the risk and issue management. So risk management in a project, you cannot avoid it. And what are we saying by risk? In a nutshell, what we say by risk is we are talking of future events that can happen and can affect the project positively or even negatively. So some of these are very clear during the start of the project or even the program, but some of them, they come as you go. If you want to understand more about risk management in a project, I've also created a video on risk management in a project. You can also check it on my channel, or you can use the link in the description below. So risk management is very, very important. And also, as you go through the project, I can tell you from my experience, there's no way you can run a project where, for example, you're not going to find any issue. You're going to find so many issues, actually about 3 types of issues. You'll find it's a general issue that can come into the project. It could be even a change request issue that can come into the project, or even an off specification issue that can come into the project. If you want to understand more about these 3 specific types of issues that you can come across in a project, I've also created a video on the types of issues that you can also expect to see. You're going to experience so many issues in a project environment, and it is very important that you know how to manage these issues all the way from the beginning of the project up to the end. If you want to understand more about complete issue management in a project environment, I've created a long video on issue management in a project environment. You can also check it on my channel, or you can check on the link in the description below. So now let us look into the key differences between these 3 items: portfolio, program, and project. So portfolio is at strategic level. This is very, very important. And then program is at benefits level, also very important. Then a project is at delivery level, also very important. So it is very important to know and to appreciate the difference between these 3 categories: portfolio, program, and also project. So let us move on and look at the governance part of it. You might be asking, Oscar, in terms of governance, portfolio, program, and also project, what is the actual difference? So let's go through that in terms of governance relevance, okay? So from a governance perspective, we are saying at portfolio level, we are asking ourselves, are we doing the right work? So that is very, very important at portfolio level. Then at program level, we are asking the question, are we deriving any value from what we are doing? Okay? That is very, very important. You cannot just do anything. Most of the projects, actually, they bring in value. Projects or programs, even portfolios, they bring value. There must be some value. Otherwise, there's no need to do that project or program. Then the last one is on the program. Then the last one, is on the project. On the project, we're asking the question, are we delivering the right things? So you should be able to see the difference between these 3 categories: portfolio, program, and also project. It's very important for people to appreciate the difference. Otherwise, you might end up mixing mistakes that you normally find when it comes to knowing the difference between portfolio, program, and project. So let us look at them one by one. So the first one that we have to look at is people, they want to treat portfolios as projects. That's a big mistake. A portfolio is a portfolio, a project is a project. So don't treat portfolios as projects, okay? Then also you expect managers, project managers, to be managing strategy. Project managers are supposed to be confined to managing projects, not strategy. That is very, very important. Then also you find you start ignoring or tracking benefits, which means if it's a program, you want to run it as a project, most likely you're going to fail to track benefits of the program, okay? So you should be able to know the difference. That is very, very important.